Good morning, football fan. Oh, shut up. Here we go with this shit. Let's go. It is Tuesday, the 28th of January, and we know who's going to the Super Bowl, so that's a great way to start it off. This is the Pigskin Prognosis. I'm Zach. I'm alongside here with co-host Sully.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
And we have, again, special guest Kev on this week to talk about his favorite team, the Philadelphia Eagles, going to the Super Bowl. Kev, say hey.
Go Birds! Hey guys.
And
Even out now.
this week we just got a little bit of stuff to talk about, draft wise, coaching wise, Super Bowl wise, and then not to mention the Pro Bowl going on this weekend too. So stick around for a great content and an awesome week with Kev on as a special guest, and we'll dive into it. All right, so this week on Pigskin Prognosis, we are officially done with every game except the last one, the one that matters. And we know the two teams going to the Super Bowl are the Kansas City Chiefs, aka Sully's favorite team.
Yeah, that was coming.
For the Swifties out there, the Super Bowl. It's not called Super Bowl Licks. It's Super Bowl 59. Okay, if you think they just name the Super Bowl Licks, it's not how it works. It's 59.
Don't feel bad. I had to explain that to Zach a couple of days ago, so don't let it make
Sully's
me.
the reason I know that. Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely a reason they did it for Super Bowl 50. They chose the 5-0 rather than Super Bowl L, which would have been just awful.
Believe me, Carolina took a big fat L in that fucking Super Bowl too. So let's not.
Oh, that's right. I'm so sorry.
Kev got me all fired up beforehand. Kev's gonna get me fired up 10 seconds into the.
Oh, I do have. I know we're going there, but there is a Panthers record that got broken over the weekend, so we'll go into that.
Okay.
Interesting. All right.
All right. Well, let's save that for.
Fucking prepared. I like it.
He did his research on you, man. He knows exactly what he's looking for.
Clearly.
Yeah, and then we've got what else? We got some coaching stuff, some the coaching carousel, which I've learned that is not a term that I came up with just now.
What? No.
Yeah, believe it or not.
Fortunately, there will be no favorite segment from everybody this week. The ZSBOTTW.
That is unfortunate. Yeah, I mean there are bets to be had on the Super Bowl and to be placed, but I won't be placing any Super Bowl bets this week until it gets a little bit closer. So stick around until next week, and you'll get the final version of Zach's shitty bets of the week for the 2024-2025 campaign.
Unless I can convince him to put in on who's going to be the number one draft pick, which we got some time. I make them.
We'll talk about that too. That's a topic of debate pending trades and everything too. So, but let's talk with Kev for a second. It's nice to have you back on the podcast, Kev. Thanks for cutting some time out on such a short notice to jump in. And we thought it was pretty appropriate for you to step in again before the Super Bowl, since your Birds are going there and your city's on fire. It sounded like y'all were rioting over a championship win there.
Yeah, I want to say first off, thank you guys for having me. I do appreciate it. First time you had me on was awesome, and I appreciate having me on again. But even though I know, most people probably don't want to listen to a Philadelphia Eagles fan talk about like, oh my God, the Philadelphia Eagles. Even though I know we're not as hated as the Chiefs, but I know we're pretty hated.
Yes.
I think. Well, I would say it's for a different reason, but I agree with you. I think it's just because y'all are actually good and people hate that, versus the Chiefs that are not actually good, but calls keep just going their fucking way, which is bullshit.
Yeah, but I will say the city was. I mean, you guys probably saw the pictures on Broad Street. It was crazy. I mean, everyone's just yelling "Go Birds!" I don't think any stands collapsed, although maybe a newspaper stand did. But yeah, I don't know why the cops didn't grease the poles this time, so people were just running up and down the poles. I mean, with the greasing of the poles, usually it's a challenge, but now they just were like, nah, whatever. What's the point?
They would get bitches either way, so it didn't matter.
Well,
it didn't matter.
I think what it was is that y'all weren't expecting to beat fucking DC as bad as you did.
Not as bad, and I think that's what led to even more of like a oh my god type of reaction. Because when you beat somebody, I think it was like 32 points. Like that's I think that's one commenter said that was belt to ass is what they refer to it as.
Yeah, you get 50 points plus in any professional sports setting for football, and it's bad. It does not look good.
Yeah, I mean, 55 points is an incredible amount. I thought it was going to be a lot closer, and I'm pretty sure I fucked a lot of people that were listening to Zach's Shitty Bets of the Week last week. I said that Washington was at least going to cover the spread. I think it was like 3.5 or 4.5 points, or just outright win, which was my personal opinion. It was not good. 32-point differential is not how you want to end the season against the division rival too.
Yeah, that's the thing. I thought it was going to be. I mean, I think everyone in Philadelphia thought it was going to be a close game because let's be honest. I want to give shout out to Commanders and Commanders fans. They're back, and Jaden Daniels is a hell of a quarterback, and he's going to be in the league doing well for a while. Don't get me wrong there, but I don't think he was the reason of how it got so bad. Not so fast, but how it just started declining and then all of a sudden went off a cliff. Yeah, it was like, because I will say, even at halftime, I was like, okay, it's close. The Eagles get the ball back, and then they went 3 and out, and I was like, crap. Because you just never know what Jane did. I going back to what you were saying when you picked the Washington, I was like, I wouldn't have picked Washington. I still would have picked the Eagles because I saw how both games happened in the regular season. But Jane Daniels is the legit thing. That's the summary of that.
Yeah, and Jaden Daniels actually had a really good game. I was looking at his stat line, and 255 yards, a touchdown and interception, 29 completions.
Well, the interception was a Hail Mary.
Oh, yeah, that was it's on the stat line, but it's tough to call that one a true interception as well. But
yeah, he threw it into double coverage just to be like, all right, hopefully, I forget who he threw it to. Was it Terry McLaurin? But yeah, Terry McLaurin. Just like, hopefully he can get it. But there were 2 guys in the area. I don't think that was. I mean, it's funny. We'll probably go into it. But the guy, he didn't target Quinyon Mitchell all game. And then his first or second target of Quinyon Mitchell was that interception. So, and that's the one thing I will say. I know he's not going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year, but man, Quinyon Mitchell has had a hell of a rookie season, and I think the reason it's not talked to him, in my opinion, enough is because he doesn't get the interceptions. He doesn't get the sexy interceptions. He kind of just bats the ball down, which I kind of like sometimes because if you remember the Rams game when Isaiah Rodgers tried to catch the interception, when usually Quinyon Mitchell just bats it down, when you try to catch the interception as a cornerback, I feel like sometimes the receiver will just either grab it out of the hands or is a better catcher, so they're able to get the ball better than the cornerback rather than if you just swat it down. But, yeah, Quinyon Mitchell, I'm so happy we got him. I didn't think he would ever fall, 14 in the draft or whatever it was last year, but pretty happy with him.
yeah, he's definitely a good addition on the defensive side of the ball for y'all, and it's you guys. I mean, defense is huge, but when you guys have an offense that when your quarterback and running back score 3 touchdowns each, you're going to do some damage on anybody you face. Nobody's going to be able to keep up with that. I think Philly's the only offense that I could then see right now that has the potential to do that multiple years in a row with just how hot they are, because they're not getting rid of Hurts anytime soon, and they just signed Saquon, and I'm sure he doesn't want to go anywhere either. So.
I honestly, I'm glad Jalen Hurts played the best game of his season during the most important game to date right now of this year. I mean, you could argue maybe the Steelers game, he was really good too, but I mean, he was efficient. Even when he got into trouble, he didn't take unnecessary sacks. I think he took maybe 1 that was a bad sack. But if you saw that Rams game, which you guys probably watched it was a lot of sacks. And I know people be like, oh, it's snow, he lost his footing, but it was still some more unnecessary sacks. But yeah, he was smart with the ball. One of my favorite plays, because AJ Brown's my favorite player, 4th and 5. He does a deep shot to A.J. Brown, and you're like, this isn't going to go well. And it goes right into the bucket, man. It goes right into A.J. Brown. And I I know people are pissed because of like the Marshawn Lattimore and AJ Brown, but I got me fired up. I'm like, yeah, get in his face, do the Mike Evans thing, because
Yeah.
you know Mike Evans was going to be like, yes, take it to him.
Oh yeah. And Lattimore's the guy that he has a lot of attitude on the defensive side of the ball too, because he came from New Orleans, and I watched a couple of games with him down here, and he's got that fired up attitude whenever something goes his way. You know, it just creates that passion for his team to get fired up. So kind of see that back and forth banner, and like I said earlier too, division rivalry is even better because you're going to see that team a lot with Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts and Marshawn Lattimore being well, not Jalen Hurts, but Marshawn Lattimore and Saquon Barkley being fresh to their teams within the last year. They're going to have a lot of respect for that division. I'm assuming moving forward into the next regular season.
Oh, I definitely think the Commanders are now the team people are going to watch out for. I mean, yes, people are always like, because the Eagles got to the Super Bowl, of course they're going to watch out for the Eagles. But now it's like Commanders are also in that, talking point of like maybe they could try for the NFC East, and they're going to be a legit contender. Because I think the one team still is pretty far away, and I don't mean a slight because I'm kind of happy the way the Giants handled their offseason last year. I mean, the Giants are pretty far away in that division, to be honest. So, but yeah, go back to what you said. The Commanders are definitely a team that is on the rise. However, I will say the one thing I think, as an Eagles fan in the early 2000s, getting the NFC Championship game is just hard. Like, it's never a sure thing that you're going to get back. Like, I remember the Eagles kept getting back, and then they got, well, I guess you could say they got the Super Bowl that once in like 2004, and then never got back until 2017. It's just like you think you're constantly going to be back, you're going to be back, you're going to be back, but then sometimes you're just it sucks that you don't. I mean, I think we look at that one stat of like 19 QBs that lost a Super Bowl, and like the past 19 didn't ever get back, or so far haven't gone back to the Super Bowl until Jalen Hurts. So it's you never know what your season's gonna go through. So getting to that point is just always special. And that's why I'm just fired up right now. I know hopefully I'm not like rubbing it in. I'm gonna enjoy the time while I can.
Yeah.
Oh, don't worry. Else fall from grace is gonna come soon, hopefully.
Well, that's what I was just about to say too. You kind of called me on it, Sully. The fall from grace is that, look at the Commanders on the side of things. They made it to the championship, but when was their last appearance? It was in the 90s. I think it was 1991.
1981?
Yeah. So, I mean, they're looking at, it was been, 34 years since they've been back?
Yeah.
So,
I say shit. Last time they were back, according to Zach, I was like already 60 at that point. So
yeah, older than dirt by that point. So
yeah. Funny thing is, Kevin's older than me. Fun fact.
Well,
so
you're both old then. How about that?
Wait, were your Panthers even around in 91? I can't remember when they joined.
1995 year one.
There it is.
They just did their first. I say first. So you only have 1/30th anniversary. Well, you should. So yeah, they just hit their 30th anniversary this last season that just went past. So yeah, 2 Super Bowl wins. Fuck yeah, 0-2 baby. Let's go.
We got some comments from the live chat as well. Malachi the Prophet says, "Go Eagles! Sully's favorite team is gonna lose."
Oh, thank you, Malachi.
So the prediction from the views is that Philly's gonna win. Okay.
Kiss ass. Why did they plan him in the fucking chat?
And I can see it happening after the Super Bowl. I can see Sully sitting in his room holding his record of Taylor Swift, just listening to some old country music of hers, and he's just crying like, they're gonna win the Super Bowl next year.
I'm about to send you a bunch of Taylor Swift shit, so keep running your mouth.
Joke's on you. I like it.
The funny thing is, you either have to embrace that Taylor Swift's current team or the team she grew up rooting for.
Very true.
Like, people are in a bind right now, like a real hard bind. Like, 'cause I don't know if you saw the maps of like what people are rooting for, and the majority of America is rooting for Commanders, Bills, Super Bowl. I'm not dumb. I realize that.
Yeah.
I think most people were, but then it's just got the complete opposite, and everyone's just like, "Fuck this."
So
yeah, literally, once the Commanders game yesterday ended, I was like, "You got to be fucking kidding me!" And I was like, "The Eagles are probably, or the fucking Chiefs are probably going to win this fucking game." And sure as shit, it happened.
And I think that's a good segue into my next point. You kind of talked about it earlier with your defensive point about the rookie that Philly has, but in batting balls versus trying to intercept the balls, that didn't go well for the Bills on the play where they had a contested catch and it hit the ground. But because it was a contested catch, they gave the receiver possession, even though it hit the ground, and it worked in Kansas City's favor. Did y'all remember that play?
Yeah.
I'm sure that was one of the most controversial, if not the most controversial call of the game.
I would say it's or that first down. That fourth.
That was a fourth. Sorry, that was a first down. That was a first down. That was a first down.
I have to agree with that one too, but we'll take it one at a time. One at a time. So
sorry.
Let's go back to the catch. The catch, or I mean, it's ruled a catch, but it's a no catch in my very uneducated rulebook opinion. But a lot of people, including announcers and rule analysts that you have that were hired by CBS to talk about this, all suggested it's not a catch. And then you got YouTube videos coming out that I probably watched 3 or 4 different angles and video breakdowns from people that I watch videos from all the time that suggested that the catch, the receiver didn't even have his hand on the ball until it was going down to the ground. And he did only have one hand on it, and you can know that because of his glove color. But the defender had 2 hands on the ball. And a lot of people were either, well, if it's going to be a catch, it should be an interception because if you're doing your contested catch, hits the ground, but still has possession rule, then it would be in favor of Buffalo. But that didn't happen. So what are y'all's thoughts on that? So I'm going to ask you first. What do you think about that?
I mean, it's if things are going to go a certain way with the Kansas City Chiefs, I think we already know which way it's going to go. I think we've seen it time and time again, especially this season, last season. I mean, shit, they're on their way to potentially three-peating, and dear God, I hope that doesn't happen. Over bullshit calls like that. It's frustrating to see. I know the announcers actually had to an issue about it, and just because of the fact that it's clearly not a catch, but yeah, it gets ruled in favor, and helps Kansas City end up going down and eventually scoring on that drive too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
I don't know. It's the referees need to be better. I think I'll just leave my summary of that one up on that one. I'm a little more fired up about that first down thing I am than that, just because I expected some bullshit call to go that way.
Yeah. I kind of agree with Sean when it comes to like those pass interference or those like kind of catch not catch. That's where I'm like it's tough because like when you slow down the video, you're really going by frame by frame by frame, and like it's. I agree. It was not a catch. I know I think there was a penalty on that play regardless, so they would have gotten like a 1st and 20. I think there would have been like at the 21 rather than the 3. But still, it clearly like wasn't a catch. So rewarding them an additional like 20 yards was just ridiculous. And it's unfortunate because there's all these things that are like, yeah, that's definitely went the Chiefs' way. But like when it keeps happening over and over and over and over again, you can understand why the America's kind of like, what the hell is happening? Yeah. And again, same thing happened. Definitely didn't catch that. So, I do want to say, if Dez Bryant, and I'm an Eagles fan, if Dez Bryant wasn't a catch, that definitely wasn't a catch.
Yeah.
Let's just say that, and that's from an Eagles fan.
Yeah.
That's and to set your bias aside for that is a very valid point. I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
But I do think that was probably a lot more of a fair call than I was expecting for the Chiefs, because there were some Buffalo calls that happened too that went towards in their favor. It's just the controversial ones never went their way. The fourth and one,
decide the game and have a big contributing outcome on the game.
That 4th and 1 may have turned the scales entirely. Could have broken that tie and sent them into scoring a touchdown potentially.
Because then they would have been up by theoretically 8. Like if you got the 7 point, I think it was 22-21 at that point. If the Bills kept driving, then they would have scored. Well, theoretically, maybe.
Yeah.
We don't know ifs and buts, but I will say, yeah, I'll let you go into that, but yeah, just that one fires me up more.
Yeah, which it was a little bit of a different play call, and I think they kind of knew because they did it earlier in the game on a goal to go, where the Kansas City defense knew exactly where Josh Allen was going to go. Because I guess when he does like those QB sneaks for those inches plays, he either goes right over the center, which we saw him literally jump over the center and fumble, but he was able to recover his own fumble to get the to make, I think it was a 4th and 1 play.
Yeah, 1, yeah.
And there was another one at the goal line where they tried to do it, and he I guess favors the left side, the left A gap when he's doing a sneak, and he did that twice on that goal to go and then on that 4th and 1, and both of them were close but ultimately ruled a stop by Kansas City. So that kind of information that can be passed to a team like Kansas City to make that stop in just inches, it's it's something that I think they have to work on to kind of spice it up a little bit.
Yeah,
if he would have gone right side, if he would have gone towards like a tackle on the right side, I feel like he would have got him off guard.
Yeah, you also got to look at it too. Spagnuolo, defensive coordinator for the Chiefs, is a phenomenal defensive coordinator too.
Yeah.
To even just pick up on little things like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't think of any coach that, for the most part, at least not off the top of my head right now, that whether offense, defense, or head coach, that can sit there and go through and notice little things like that, right? Like ideally that's what you want in a coach, whether it's in either football or hell, that's the whole point of watching tape, right? Like it's to pick up and learn little things like that, right? Which helps you. And hell, they ended up getting 2 stops out of it. One, which, as we've been talking about, I think was complete bullshit. But if you go back and look on that last one, the play before, I think it was Kincaid that caught the ball, and they ruled him like a good probably half a yard short, even though when you clearly see it, he was down past the line of scrimmage. Past the first down line.
Yeah.
And then they ruled him back like another good, 1.5 feet or so, which caused them to get into that 4th down and, half a yard.
Right.
Spot to begin with. And then you have 2 referees who one gives them the first down and the other one is like a good fucking foot back still, 2 feet back.
Who didn't even see the ball, but I digress.
Yeah. So, I don't understand how, I saw a thing the other day, or yesterday, actually. It was tennis in 2025 can sit there and zoom in and show you exactly where a ball hit, the exact mile per hour it hit, all the trajectory of where it was going and all that stuff for tennis. But yet, a multi-billion-dollar company like the NFL, we rely on fucking 7 dudes that are 25 yards away from the ball and fucking 2 people with sticks to measure where the ball is and everything else. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Are you voting for robo refs?
I'm voting for chips in the balls.
No, I know.
Well, that's what I want to see.
I think there is.
It just sounds like the
to be made for sure. I agree with you.
Like,
Go ahead, Kev,
but like you see shit like that, and it becomes frustrating. I think Dave Portnoy actually said like, "Hey, let's boycott the Super Bowl this year," because even he saw it and was like, "This is getting ridiculous." But yeah, Kev, I definitely want to. I know you were getting a little fired up about it, like I was, just because fucking favors and Chiefs and calls and fucking referees and shit.
But it's your team, buddy. It's your team. Embrace it.
No, it's America's team.
Once you get the moniker of America's team, I think it spells doom for your franchise. To be honest, just ask Jerry Jones that.
Yeah.
It's funny, the argument you were using sounds like the robo-ump argument I hear a lot. Like, we're having umps in baseball go to, like, Angel Hernandez, where it's, like, a foot outside and it's, like, strike 3, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
It's like the same thing. Like, there's the technology. We should be able to just incorporate it without even lengthening the game. It would be fine. In fact, we'd probably make it faster. But, yeah, going to the 4th and 1, I see a lot of tush-push plays. Let's be honest. Like, I'm an Eagles fan. I see a lot of it. And I know forward progress when I see it. He clearly had forward progress and clearly had the first down. And then, yes, obviously afterward, because at the end of the tush push, it usually does happen where the defense gets a shove back. However, the damage is already done, and I'm not. And if you're complaining about that, that's part of the NFL rulebook. You're complaining about that forward progress is given to the runner, and like he did pass the first down mark on that 4th and 1, and it should have been a fresh set of downs. So that's why it was just like wild when I saw that. I'm like, oh yeah, it's definitely a first down, and then they were like, nope, and I saw because the first one you see is the ref going first down, and then the other ref's going like, oh wait. Hold up.
Oh, I got money on this game. Hold on.
Exactly. And it was, I what else can I say except that he had it, and that's coming from someone that's seen a lot of tush pushes.
Yeah.
And don't take that out of context.
We'll clip that later. You go through and you look at that too, and it just sucks even more too, because obviously the Bills had momentum going into that section right there, and once that was called, it honestly kind of just not necessarily fell apart, because obviously they had a couple more chances to, I think they had one, maybe two more chances after that to try to get the ball back. And then, I don't know, it just seemed to kind of, the team dynamic kind of shifted once that happened. Like everybody kind of just seemed like you just kicked their puppy, you know what I mean? Like it just didn't look like the same Bills that were fired up, ready to go before that. And then once that ended up happening.
It almost felt like they realized that they were like, oh no, are the refs really going to impact this game? Like, I don't think they thought of that going in, but then after, I guess, like those two calls, it's kind of just like, oh no, is this happening again, basically?
Yeah.
And I will say, the one thing I will say, there's been worse, I do want to say that, there's been worse calls for the Chiefs than this game. This game was not as bad as a number of games, even earlier this year, with, Mahomes sliding or Mahomes out of bounds or any of those calls, or even, pass interference. I know I am definitely one to be like, I don't know, I know Super Bowl 57, but in my opinion, I don't think it was a hold. And to end the Super Bowl that way was just so heart-wrenching. And I think there's been worse calls, but yeah, those calls definitely impacted the game, and I think the Bills franchise, I feel worse for them than the Lions now, because like they get so close every year. It's been what now, 5 years of this, or 4?
It's 4, yeah.
Yeah, it's just just in the playoffs in general. It's just, man, they're a good team and they have a good quarterback. I think sometimes it's getting worse getting up to that point and then losing consistently, because that's kind of how the Eagles were in the beginning of the 2000s, where NFC Championship, and then just swept out the rug out from under you every time.
Usually it's like a vicious 10-year cycle or something, where teams are on top of the world, making the postseason here and there, maybe skip a year, but relatively consistent, at least postseason appearances. And then off the radar for, 5 to 10 years before they're really back again, because they go through that rebuild phase, or their franchise person is hurt, or their franchise quarterback wants to leave, or, they don't have a solid defense, or their offensive line is trash, whatever the case may be. But it's like one problem arises that's relatively detrimental. Let's say like offensive line, for example, right? And then by the time you fix your offensive line, well, then your running back contract is up. And then by the time you sign a new running back, then your safeties are traded away for draft picks, stuff like that. It's just like that vicious cycle of I don't want to call it rebuild, because teams know when they're going through a rebuild, but it's like that. Just trying to fix one thing at a time, before you can before it's all perfect again. But Philly has figured it out.
I think, and the reason why I think, because the thing is, it's different teams. It's not like, I will say, kudos to the Chiefs and I guess the GM. It's very similar teams that have been, going back. I know the receivers have changed. You have Xavier Worthy as compared. You saw Juju Smith-Schuster, but it's very similar teams. For the Eagles, it feels like almost. I know there's a lot of similar players. Like the offensive line is very similar, but like I think picking up on free agents where other teams have given up on them and getting those right is huge. is massive because those fill the gaps. Like, let's be honest, you only have so much money. They paid A.J. Brown, they paid Devontae Smith, they paid Jalen Hurts, they paid Saquon Barkley, they paid all their offensive linemen. What does that leave you with? You got to hit the draft hard. You got 2 cornerbacks because obviously James Bradbury was toast last year. And then you pick up, linebacker play with Zach Vaughn. I mean, I think that's part of the issue. Going back with what you're saying is like, once you pay this person, then, you lose this amazing player because you can't afford it. I mean, that's what I really think if you look at like the Cowboys where, they have so much money in like 3 or 4 specific players. That's great, but you also need to hit on a lot of players that, aren't making too much money that you sign for a year or 2-year deals, almost like prove-it deals. And I think that's the one thing I think Harry Roseman has done a pretty good job of is being like, okay, who can I get on the cheap and who can, fill in some. And there are years when it does not work out. Look at the linebacker play for the Eagles in 2023. It was garbage. I think you had as a starter the practice squad Steelers that player, I can't remember his name, that couldn't make the team. Like it does happen. So, but yeah.
Okay, so I want to talk about now with kind of moving out of the who's in it. Now we can kind of talk about who's out of it, which we've already talked, about Washington and Buffalo, but more so about the draft talks for them. Washington will get the 29th pick and Buffalo gets the 30th pick, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think they're both looking for someone on defense. Buffalo needs some kind of defensive tackle, and Washington's looking for some kind of edge rusher. And then aside from that, both of them need a wide receiver to kind of complement a star that they kind of already have. I really, my personal opinion is that Buffalo's wide receiving core is not star-studded. You've got Amari Cooper, which I believe is probably their best receiver. I mean, that I know of, in my opinion. And then Washington, you've got Terry McLaurin, which if you get him an accenting wide receiver, maybe a rookie wide receiver who knows what he's doing, then you've got 2 decent targets downfield, and they're both going to be relatively young. So. I don't know how well versed you are in draft talks, Kev, but what do you think about the picks for Washington or Buffalo?
For Washington, Washington, I'm gonna go more. They do need what you said. Don't get me wrong, wide receiver and edge rusher. I think they do need a cornerback because I don't. In my opinion, I wouldn't trust Marshawn Lattimore anymore. I don't.
Really? Okay.
That's my opinion. I know they traded for him, and obviously he still has years on his contract. It's just I feel like what I've seen recently, because the Lions didn't slow down with their offense in that game. In my opinion, I from the games I've seen Lattimore get toasted. I think sometimes. So I would honestly think about a cornerback if I'm Washington. The other thing is that. I know this for a fact is you're going to need a tight end with the way Jaden Daniels loves the safety valve tight end. And Zach Ertz is great. He's great. Don't get me wrong. I know Zach Ertz. He's great. You also need a better blocking tight end. And I think with his age as well, I would also think about a tight end for Washington because I think that would really help Jaden Daniels a lot. That slant route, Jaden Daniels is able to just know exactly where hit the runner in stride. I know watching the game, Tom Brady mentioned it a lot, but he's able to just hit the guy in stride and then the guy can just keep going. That's why the Terry McLaurin touchdown happened. Is he just hit McLaurin right in the stride. Just McLaurin turned around, the ball was there, and he just took it to the house. Yeah, that's my opinion.
So you must have well, I don't know. Let me ask you this. What is your opinion on Zach Ertz?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I like Zach Ertz. I have no problem.
Y'all had him in his prime.
Yeah, we did. That's the one thing is Zach Ertz is a fantastic, amazing pass catching tight end. And if you notice what I said there was pass catching.
Right.
That's why if a couple years ago, I think it was Selleck and Ertz together, and Selleck was basically, you knew when Selleck was out there, it was going to be like, all right, he's blocking, and Zach Ertz was, catching a lot. And the thing about Zach Ertz is that yak isn't usually sometimes his thing, which is usually pretty big for the tight end, in my opinion. I think you see Gronk, Kelsey, even Goddard. I don't know, I'm putting Goddard, but Kittle's a perfect example. They take tackles and they get an extra 3 or 4 yards because they're just big bodies. Zach Ertz, his route running is phenomenal. I think he's one of the top tight end route runners, of recent memory. But like if you tackle him, he's immediately down if he gets touched. And that's one thing that as Eagle fans was kind of frustrating because he would be like right by the first down marker and he'd catch the ball right before it, and then it would immediately go down and you're like, just power through, you're a big guy. But no, I will say he caught the touchdowns, the final touchdown in the Super Bowl. I love him. In my opinion, I think he's a great Eagles legend.
Okay. I do agree with you. I think he is, he was one of my favorite tight ends. He's kind of moved away from that because his workload is down. I think where'd he go? He went to the Cardinals after y'all, right?
Yeah, that was not good.
Yeah, that was not a good time for him. But now when he's got Daniels and a good quarterback needs a really good tight end, like you said too, a very good outlet, someone who can block for him if needed. Kind of like a check down, but like a midfield check down, open the field, someone who can take a hit and not fumble. And I think that they have it in Ertz, but they've got an older version of Ertz, which they need to. Go ahead.
Yeah, I will say that slant route. My wife can tell you. I'm like, you have to stop the slant route with Ertz during that game because it was just it was like boom, boom. It was like 4 plays in a row, and I was just like, they're gonna do this all game. And it was 9, 10, 13 yards at a time, and don't get me wrong, Jay Daniels was like throwing them perfectly open. But the only reason it stopped, if I don't know if you guys remember, was because Zach Ertz just missed one. He dropped it. He dropped one of the passes, and then they went away from it. They were like, "Oh, that's it. We're not." Cliff Kingsbury was like, "I'm not calling that anymore." I was just like, "Oh, thank God!" Like if that's the reason that you guys, because I will say the Eagles didn't stop that play. Zach Ertz just dropped it on a 3rd and 10.
Well, they were leaving that middle open a good bit, like they
huge.
But I think y'all don't have a relatively star, like middle linebacker, do you? I don't even know who your QB is.
No, outside linebacker was Zach Bond. Inside, oh my God, Oren Burks.
Okay.
So yeah, or because he's the backup for Nakobe Dean because Nakobe Dean is out for the rest of the year. He got injured in the playoffs earlier. So Oren Burks, who was I think on the Packers special team last year, I think, or the Rams special team. So yeah, he's been doing above what I think people expected. But yeah, it's not star-studded. They kind of had I think an umbrella type of defense where they were really concerned on the outsides, but they kind of let that middle go, be free almost.
yeah, and that's where you're gonna get that issue of that slant route, man, especially with a guy that with Ertz's size can hit it, and that's something that y'all have to pay attention to moving into the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, exactly, because you got Travis Kelce who can make those catches happen. He's really good at those 10, 15 yard sure plays, but he's also really good at those contested catches, and he's also really good at the lateral plays too. When he catches it and he stops and he laterals it to somebody else. So y'all are gonna have in those tight ends with Travis Kelce.
Speaking of laterals, do you guys remember that it was in I think the Ravens game when Josh Allen there were hands all around him at the goal line and he thinks about pitching it back to the running back behind him in the Ravens game? I know you could. I
watched a video, like a little meme video that was like young Josh Allen would have 100% lateral that ball.
I was like, oh my God, like, because I was watching live, I was like, is he going to do it? No way. And I was like, okay, no, he held it. He was like, I think he even mentioned, he was like, yeah, I definitely would have done that a couple of years ago. That was hilarious to me.
Okay, so
sorry, I just want to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, I just wanted to mention the one thing I was like, because I know I was here last time. I'm like, the team that I was so happy that we didn't face, can I just say, was the Buccaneers. So I do want to thank Washington for beating them because I was. If you remember when you asked, like, "Oh, are you afraid of Washington?" I was like, I'm more afraid of the Buccaneers. I was just happy Hurts didn't have to play Todd Bowles again.
They kind of choked it though. The Bucks kind of choked it the last couple of weeks of the season. Like they had that loss against. Was it the Texans or the Cowboys? I can't remember who.
It was a bad loss. I can't.
Lost to. And then in the playoffs, just not a good look for them going into the postseason, I should say. And obviously they weren't expecting it, which I don't think anybody is. But yeah, I agree with you. I'm glad. I liked Washington. I've kind of been a Washington fan this year, so. It's good to see
like a lot of people have.
Yeah, it's nice to see that different flavor in there. Cowboys out, Washington in. So, which Cowboys have been out for a while. I got to get my little Cowboys dig in there. Okay, so let's move on to Buffalo then. So then Buffalo, they are drafting 30th overall, and we talked about the wide receiver core that they need, but they're also according to our sources that we use, let's see, this one is the
like you say at like our sources, like we're on speed dial with Adam Scheffler. Like,
yeah, hey, yeah. But they are looking at picking some kind of defensive lineman or edge rusher to help, some kind of sack or run stopper force on that primary defensive line. What do you think about some kind of defensive lineman pickup for the Bills?
Oh, I'll take this one then.
Anybody out there?
Whoever wants to, I mean, just like normal, nobody wants to talk to you.
I felt like I was talking too much. I was like, I'm going to Sean take this one.
I mean, to me, it does seem like a smart move with them picking up something on the defensive side, whether it's a defensive lineman or an edge rusher. Their offense seems to make it happen, and like I feel like they've proven that enough with, especially in the beginning of the year, scoring what they were scoring, putting up over 30+ points a game, except with a handful of games throughout the season. But offensively, whatever the hell they have right now is working for them. So I mean, they could boast a little bit of wide receiver help. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like most teams could. But definitely that defensive side of the ball to stop, especially when you have. I mean, hell, Kareem Hunt ran, he broke a couple plays of like over 10, 15 yards apiece, and I couldn't tell you the last time I remember seeing Kareem Hunt in a goddamn game. So it's definitely some lineman help. I think will do them good. I think that Tankathon website I'm looking at right now has them picking up the defensive lineman from Ole Miss, and then their round 2 pick has them picking up a edge rusher actually, which I think would be beneficial. Right? I mean, they didn't really get to Mahomes much, and when they did, it kind of just looked like a swing and a miss, just blatantly whiffed, missing Mahomes. And I mean, hell, even if they did touch Mahomes, it probably would have been a roughing the passer and a 15-yard penalty anyway, so it wouldn't have mattered. But it's
there it is.
Yeah, I mean, that's my thought on it. I mean, you can only do so much offensively, and it's not like even if they picked up 2 wide receivers, they couldn't have all 6 of them on the field at the same time. But definitely some defensive help to at least pressure the quarterback, get him to think about it, be like, okay, shit, I don't have all day back here to sit there and run around and make some shit happen, right, or run the ball or whatever it may be. But
so they don't have a 3rd round pick because it's a compensatory
compensatory,
that word, thank you, for the trade with Amari Cooper from the Browns. So they're going to give up their 3rd round draft pick, a 94th overall, to Cleveland. So with their current offensive situation, you think that they don't need to pick up any kind of offensive help, wide receiver or running back? I mean, I know they have James Cook. I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but tight end or anything like that?
Honestly, I mean, Kev, you might have a different thought on it, but I don't think so. I mean, if you're putting up 30+ points a game and it doesn't seem like Josh Allen has an issue taking the game in his hand. You know what I mean? If he's got to go run in instead of relying on a wide receiver to get open. But I think that defensive side of the ball is where they're gonna need that beef up a little bit. But yeah, I mean, obviously a wide receiver would help to complement Cooper, but I don't feel it's like their main pressing goal.
Okay.
Kev?
Yes. So I 100% agree with Sean. They need edge rush, but I will say, defensive linemen to just get up the middle. I feel like sometimes if you don't contain, I feel like Mahomes. Like if he had all day in the pocket, he'll find something. He just always will, no matter what. And I think a lineman would help there. But I will say, I think they need a receiver, 100%. I think Shakir's great. Amari Cooper, I think correct me if I'm wrong, and if I am, then I apologize. I think Amari Cooper had the most drops this year.
I think you're right. I do think you're right.
Yeah.
He was targeted a lot, and he had a lot of drops.
And it's maybe because he was just targeted so much. I don't know, but I really think that passing game will become the running game will become even better because let's be honest, the Chiefs started stacking that box because they knew Allen wanted to use his legs, and that's how Allen beat the Ravens. He was running all over the place basically, and kudos to Steve Spagnuolo knowing he goes left and everything. But I think a good wide receiver would just help that running game because then that's another person you have to account for. And I get it, they were putting up a lot of points this year, but I feel like they were putting up a lot of points because of their run game, and that's what the Chiefs zoned in on. And let's be honest, the whole reason that if I'm the Bills, I'm drafting to beat the Chiefs. Like, you can clearly beat everyone else in the AFC. You've shown it time and time again. You need to draft to beat the Chiefs. What do you need to beat the Chiefs? That's how I would attack that draft. And I know everyone's gonna be like, "Oh yeah, that's everyone's draft because they're the champions," but like
Right.
it's even more so for the Bills because you literally have to go through them every single year.
So then let me ask you this then. That you bring up a good point. If you have a solid offense like Sully says, and you're drafting to beat the Chiefs, why not draft somebody on defense? Like you're up the middle, rushing the quarterback, get him uncomfortable, which we know that Mahomes, no matter where he's at on the field, he can make a hell of a pass. But we also saw that they had kind of figured it out with their cornerback that they used as a spy, and he got him for a play or two here and there where he was able to keep up with him. I forget the guy's name on the Buffalo side of things, but that's a good point. I agree with you. I do think that that's going to be kind of everybody's playthrough of drafting to beat the Chiefs. I like that. I like that saying. I'm sure
it's kind of weird too. Like you sit there and look at it. At least maybe I'm just the only one that thought this. If you looked at the beginning of the season, and obviously them losing Tyreek Hill, I don't know. The Chiefs on paper didn't look impressive to me. I wasn't expecting them to make the Super Bowl. I should have known better. The whole fucking Taylor Swift Black Magic curse shit. I should have known better. But looking at it, that wasn't the team this year that I would have been like, this is the team to beat. Maybe that was just me, but like,
you're right. Yeah, I look at it. I look at you're damn right.
Yeah, I look at it and like Kev said, it was either the Ravens, the Bills. Those are the teams that on paper, AFC side, in my opinion, should have been the teams at the beginning of the year that I was looking at. Like, oh shit, like that might be who I put my Super Bowl money on. I wasn't expecting the Chiefs to go through. So I think some of that is, you got to draft to beat the Chiefs, right? Since, they're back-to-back and going for a three-peat type shit. But, two, I think some of that just comes down to, as much as I fucking hate to say this, comes down to coaching.
Yeah, and you're right. You said it earlier, Steve Spagnuolo on the defensive side of the ball, masterclass defensive coordinator. Andy Reid came from Philadelphia. Kev, you guys had him for a long time, and I'm sure y'all have a little sore spot now for him, but great coach, great mastermind, on the ball. But just to go back real quick to what you said, Sully, on paper you wouldn't expect KC to get this far, and even in the head-to-head matchup, the favor was the Bills because they already beat the Chiefs earlier this year. Granted, it was more of a injury-ridden team, but it was that regular season matchup that you could finally call and say like, we beat the Kansas City Chiefs. If we see them in the postseason, we've got it. It's locked out.
Yeah, but I mean, the regular season, I think Josh Allen's 3-1 or 4-1, 3-2, something like that against Mahomes in the regular season, and he's 0-4 in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know if that gets inside your head too, thinking about it, like, hey, like we're good regular season wise, but the second it comes to playoffs, we kind of shit the bed, so to speak. Not saying that they shit the bed yesterday, but it just I feel like it does play with you a little bit too, because like everyone's sitting there talking about it, like, oh, you can beat Mahomes in the regular season. You've proved it multiple times, but when it actually matters and when your season's on the line, you can't do it. You can't make it happen. Just like that little bit of doubt gets in the back of your head, I feel like, and it fucks with you, and you kind of got to try to overcome it and do what you can with that. But I mean, hopefully one day they'll overcome it. I'm sick of seeing the Chiefs in the fucking Super Bowl.
That's not what you said pre-podcast, but.
I think you should have wished for the Bengals to make the playoffs. Then they were the team that beat the Chiefs in the AFC Championship. 21? I mean,
yeah. When that was their Super Bowl Super Bowl season run, right? When they lost to the Rams.
Yeah, the Rams. I mean, they've been the only team in recent history to beat the Chiefs. So, but I will say, going back to Sean's point, Steve Spagnuolo is just an amazing defensive coordinator, and I know Andy Reid, but like I think lately, the past 2 years, it's been that defense, man. And Mahomes is going to do, and I think that's how they realize that Mahomes is going to do Mahomes things. He's so good that he will just get 20 points in a game. Like that's not going to be difficult for Patrick Mahomes. And I think how the Chiefs do it is like if we can limit to a team to not get 21 or 22 or less points, we'll win every time. And I think that's how they do it. And Steve Spagnuolo, comes up with a great defensive game plan against whoever he's facing. And I'm curious to see how he, and I know I didn't even mention this, which is shocking, how does he contain Saquon Barkley? Because everyone's like, oh, if you contain Saquon Barkley, you can easily beat the Eagles. No one has done that, and everyone has tried. Like, people are trying. It's not like they're not trying to contain Saquon Barkley. So I'm curious to see how Steve Spagnuolo does that.
It's funny you mention that. I guess we can do the Super Bowl talk then now.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know.
No, it works. All this is segueing. That's what we like. We like it to just kind of just flow, and it works out. So talking about that, it's they were mentioning it on the broadcast too yesterday. The commentators that. Okay, cool. You pretty much got to try to pick what you're going to stop, right? You try to stop Saquon. You still have Jalen Hurts. You still have A.J. Brown. You still have Devontae Smith. You have fucking Goddard. Like, you can't cover every single fucking person and stop one person the whole time. And I do agree. I think it'll be interesting to see what the Chiefs attempt to do in the Super Bowl, especially since they've already played. The only real difference is they didn't have Saquon Barkley back there, which is a huge benefit, in my opinion, to the Eagles. And so I guess the question would be, what do you think, outside of containing Barkley, Kev, I'll start with you first, in beating the Eagles would be for the Chiefs, outside of containing Barkley?
Outside of containing Barkley, on the defensive side of things, I would say you have to hide your blitz package. That's how I think you beat. I don't know why I'm like, but like that's what I honestly think. That's how you beat the Eagles is. If you hide your blitz packages, how the Rams did it very well, the Washington tried to do it, and it did work a couple plays. But if Jalen Hurts doesn't see the blitz and he thinks he picked it up, but he didn't pick it up in the correct formation, like an all-out blitz, it'll get bad fast. And I have seen that because the issue with the Eagles is they take these long developing routes with their receivers, their tight ends, even when they try to get the running back out to the outside with either with Sanders. Whoa! with Barkley or Gainwell, it's long developing plays. And the issue with all-out blitz is you need a safety valve. You need it. And that's the one thing I think they finally did in the Washington game. They were like, all-out blitz, you throw to Goddard, that's all the way on the opposite side, or that's all the way down the field, and you just have him break some tackles. And you get 3-4 yards, but it's still, you don't take the sack. Right. And that's the one thing that I think if you're the Chiefs, if you're Steve Spagnuolo, you're probably going to disguise your blitz packages in the most confusing way possible. And not realize where Hurts is going to realize where the pressure is coming from. That's how I think you beat the Eagles.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Zach, same question you on how to outside. Obviously, we established Saquon Barkley is kind of the go through to contain him. Same question. How do you think the Chiefs can go through and stop?
I hope they don't.
Me too.
Yeah, well, no. So Kev made a really good point. You disguise your or hide your blitz package, but that doesn't stop Saquon. He has the eyes of a quarterback when he looks at defenses, and he only gets better as the game goes on. You saw that against the Rams when they called a play, Hurts called it off, and Barkley literally told him, "Give me the ball." You can hear him, you can see him, mouth the words, "I got this," and he took off for another 60-some yard touchdown.
Mm.
He knew what the defensive play was, lined up in the package and the personnel on the field. He was able to just do a quick scan and figure out, I need to put the ball here and I'm gone. And he only had to break like one or two tackles, and it was like almost untouched. And once he's past the line of scrimmage, and the secondary is nowhere near the sideline, they can't catch him. He's gone.
Yeah.
Exactly. So containment for Saquon Barkley, if the Chiefs are going to be successful, it's going to have to be to give him the middle. That's going to be my goal, right? Give him the middle. Don't let him escape outside. Because if he can break out, he's going to get past your line. Most of the time he's going to get past the defensive line. But when he does, you have to give him a containment kind of bubble, and that should be the middle of the field, because you're going to have help from both sides or from deeper down the field to collapse, like a safety or something like that on a run play. So
that's a really good point, because I think you're absolutely spot on, because I will say you may prevent, like if you cover the inside very well, you may get those stops where people are like, yeah, we stopped Saquon Barkley, only got 0 or 1 yards. But the issue is, then it leads him to get that 60-yarder. But if you kind of give him a little bit of the middle, yes, he'll get 4, 5, 6 yards at a time, but it could wear him down, I will say that's saying he gets worn down, because in the second half he just even goes ham.
Goes off.
But yeah, I will say at least then you have your linebackers just honing in all, like once he breaks that line of scrimmage, at least you can maybe stop him when everyone starts converging in the middle of the field. But yeah, once like I've seen it before, like people stop, they do stop Barkley sometimes. He gets 0 or 1 yards, he gets tackled at the line of scrimmage. But because you're also trying to send, as they say, the house on the outside, if he breaks any of those tackles, you're absolutely right. Those cornerbacks aren't catching him. Because everyone's so focused on that, the outside, and that he just breaks it and goes for a 60-yarder. And that's a really good point.
Yeah, and the other thing, I kind of double down on it here, is the other thing that you could take away from that is that you're not only gonna contain Saquon Barkley, but you're also going to help contain Jalen Hurts from getting the outside. And Jalen Hurts isn't going to break off those big runs. He's going to be needed. The containment factor for him is more so of preventing those, short yard plays to get a first down. Let's say 3rd and 5 or 3rd and 2, where he's not going to run it up the middle and take a hit. He's going to run it to the outside because nobody's going to be covering there. But if you give him, if you cover more of the edge or some of that, in between, maybe more of where the numbers are, instead of the middle portion where it's a little less ideal for him to run up the middle or try to work around the defensive line, depending on how the pocket, if it collapses or not. That'll prevent him from being able to potentially reach the edge to gain those short yards to keep the drive alive.
No, that's that's the one thing I will say. The middle right now is probably where the Eagles might be at their weakest for their offensive line. I mean, did you guys see Dickerson and Juergens? I'm really worried about those two. I mean, Dickerson, swatting people out as he's trying to get back in the game when their knee is just destroyed, basically. And Juergens, which can barely, I felt so bad for Juergens because literally, I can't believe we haven't talked about this, but with the 4 encroachment as they try to do the tush push, Juergens has to go into that crouch position, that really crouch position, and he had back issues the entire week. So just standing there or in that like position for like 5 minutes straight during all those tush pushes. Was getting to him, and that's what. Going back to your point, the middle is kind of where the Eagles might be their weakest right now because Dickerson's injured, Juergens is injured, Mekhi Becton's been. I don't think he's that injured, but yeah. I mean, I don't think you're really gonna stop Lane. Like you're gonna get past Lane Johnson. That's the one guy I'm pretty sure he's got it. But yeah, definitely. I think middle of the field is what they should open. Like allow a little bit more and send more help on the outside.
Right. And you already kind of have that too. It's going to be, if the middle is open, then yeah, you're going to help contain. I will say the con to it, you're going to help contain the running back Saquon Barkley, but the con to that is that you'll have more of those over the middle short yard passes to a tight end, unless you're running a man-to-man coverage or some kind of zone protection where you've got a middle linebacker that kind of sits in that package protect and is either a zone coverage guy or maybe a spy for Mahomes or maybe a spy for Hurts. I guess we shouldn't really talk about when we're talking about Hurts, but just that Mahomes needs a spy. Don't get me wrong. That's not what I'm trying to say, but just to kind of help, mitigate that open area for
However,
games.
Yeah, you bring up a good point because Hurts, he does not like to throw it in the middle of the field because that's where, the percentage of interceptions, where do they happen? It's usually you're throwing over the middle of the field rather than you're going to the outside. And if you notice, Hurts only does it in dire situations, like when it's like a 3rd and 5 and 3rd and 6, and it's part of the where you really need that first down at the later in the game when he goes that slant route to Brown. But that's like a very safety valve. Like they don't like throwing it in the middle. And I know, hopefully I'm not giving away the Eagles game plan. That would be terrible.
Steve Spagnuolo's listening to our podcast right now, and now he knows the secrets for the Phillies.
He's like, wow, these guys are great, man. I'm getting all the
on the podcast, at least, there, Spags. So I think we've touched on, obviously, I think we all know what the Eagles need to do to offensively to win, right? So I'll start off with you, Zach. What do you think the Chiefs offensively need to do to get the win in 2 weeks?
Okay, so I'm going to say two things. I'm going to say they need to stop the fouls because they are one of the most penalized offensive lines in the game, which I think they've kind of cleared that up, but their offensive line moves a lot. And I think they need to involve Travis Kelce more. I think it's been kind of so you and I have talked about him a lot this year and the lack of production that we've seen from him. I think he's one of the key guys that really can help, add some diversity to the receiving core when you involve him in some big plays. And not just it's 3rd and 2, let's put him in the middle and let him take a 4-yard gain and move on with our drive and keep taking shots. This is going to be a game where I think it's going to be a game of possession, not a game of points. Mm-hmm. And if you score quickly, you're going to give Philadelphia the ball, which they're going to score. They're going to score. So for the Chiefs, they need to keep possession. And that is running the clock down, going, medium play here, small play here, little gain here, running it, hitting the edge, staying in bounds, preventing the possession to turn back over with a lot of clock left, or even burning their timeouts to stop, on a miscommunication play. Those basic fundamental game plays, right? We talked about that a lot before, that those who make the least mistakes fundamentally usually win, which the Chiefs don't really seem to have those fundamental errors, and we know that Philadelphia does not either. So, I think it's just going to be overall like a game of attrition, which means like who has the ball the most or the least, and who doesn't have it. Who has the ball the least is probably going to lose, in my opinion.
There we go. We got there. It took us a while.
Going. Yeah, it takes me a minute. Circle around.
So, Kev, same question to you then. What do you think the Chiefs need to do to get the win? I know you obviously want that, but
I don't. God, please don't.
We got to bias in this podcast, okay?
Yeah. So if you look at all the Eagles games, with their past 3 games, Packers, Rams, Commanders, the main thing that sets them apart is the turnover battle. They are able, and I don't even just mean interceptions, because interceptions aren't really like they get them, but it's the fumbles. They are able to force the ball out. You get even a little loose with the Eagles team, they're going to force that ball out immediately. And then because of Vic Fangio's defense he naturally has everyone swarm. Like that's what happens. As soon as they realize where the play is, everyone swarms. Cornerbacks, linebackers, defensive linemen, everyone swarms. And that's why there's so many Eagles in the vicinity during like fumble recoveries. And they're usually pretty good at getting that. And that's what I'd say. If you're a Chiefs fan, you have to protect the ball. And with Patrick Mahomes, it's a pretty good. He doesn't leave it up for grabs majority of the time. But there were some miscues that happened. During the Bills game, that they recovered the ball. I think they had 2 or maybe 3 fumbles where they recovered the ball. I mean, the Bills also had, a lot of fumbles that they recovered as well. But that's the thing against the Eagles is that they go for it. Not only are they good at tackling now, they were not last year. They're good at tackling and punching the ball out. So they'll do both at the same time. And I think it gets in people's head oh, they're going for the wraparound. But then all of a sudden, they punch the ball out of Kyron Williams' arm or out of Austin Eckler, and all of a sudden, then it's a free ball, and that's where the time of possession, because the Eagles have a lot of explosive plays with Barkley, if you get Brown or Devontae Smith for a deep pass. So sometimes they don't have the ball long. Yes, they do have those long drives at the very end of games, but in the beginning, it's a lot of explosive plays, and the reason that it works a lot is because when they need a turnover, they get a turnover. Knock on wood. I mean, that's just what happens. Like I called it during the Rams and even during the Commanders game. I told them I was like, they really need a turnover here, and then it happened. Like DeJean or just Bond just gets the turnover, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's exactly what they needed. So if you're a Chiefs fan, turnovers, and I don't know how you stop him, but because no one's been really able to, unless you double or triple team him, is Jalen Carter. He goes right up that line, and I think he's a lot of interior linemen, you can once they get past offensive linemen, quarterbacks can usually outrun them. Jalen Carter's just as fast as a lot of quarterbacks, which is weird to say because he caught up to Love, he caught up to Daniels, he can catch up to Mahomes. So if you're a Chiefs fan, you gotta contain Carter as best as you can, because if there's pressure up the middle, I think that might get to Mahomes a little bit.
Yeah.
Not that really anything has seen that because he wins, but yeah,
somehow pulls it off.
Yeah,
that's good. No, that's good points. Yeah, I think the combo of both of what you guys said, I think will be the keys to victory for the Chiefs. And like we've all established, I don't want that to happen. I know Zach does. He's got his Travis Kelce jersey in the mail already. He just hasn't told us yet. Signed by Taylor Swift herself. So, but yeah, I think we're pretty much all in agreement that the Eagles just need to feed Barkley to win. I think we're all in agreement with that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just and hopefully he prevents injury, because I will say the only other thing about him was preventing that calf injury again. I know he was working on the calf on the sideline for against the Washington game, but it didn't seem to affect him very much. So.
Yeah, he seems to be working on an injury. I know he worked one on the Rams and the Packers, but then all of a sudden he'll right after that he'll break off a 60-yard run. You're like, oh, I guess he's fine. Yeah. Like the same thing with Hurts' knee. I was like, oh crap, he's not gonna be able to run at all. And then Hurts pull off like a 15-yard rushing touchdown. I was like, oh, well, maybe the knee's okay. Or that's just full of, I don't know, pain medicine, and they can't feel anything. Who the hell
knows? Or they play
knows?
it up so that way, they go into the game, the opponent goes into the game, and they're like, oh, we don't have to worry about Hurts. He's not going to run this week. And lies, he scores 3 rushing touchdowns. So
yeah, right.
Speaking of rushing touchdowns, I wanted to ask your guys' opinion real quick. We're coming up close to that 1 hour mark and getting close to cutting the podcast off. But what did y'all think about the tush push play where they kept trolling Washington and kept getting those offsides?
Yes. I'm so happy we talked about this, but I'll let you guys go first. I would laugh for like 10 minutes straight.
It's I thought it was funny. It did get a little excessive after a bit. Is what it was the world's longest second down play.
Yeah, something.
Wait
It was,
a minute.
it was like
Shit.
4 attempts or something like that. Yeah.
Washington took a full minute off because they needed the ball. They themselves took a minute off of the clock because of all that.
And I like how the referee does come in. Obviously knew its rules, right? Which was helpful. A lot of people, I feel like some referees may or may not know that shit. Hey, if you keep doing it, we can't move the fucking ball any farther closer, so we're just gonna automatically give them the score. Which again was pretty funny.
Yeah. In my opinion, is that the tush push is already hard enough to counteract. I was kind of like, okay, well then, what do you want the defense to do? Just take it? Like they really don't have like a standing chance when it's literally like fucking 2 inches from the goal line.
Yeah.
I thought it was a little funny. It obviously seemed like Philadelphia was trolling with them a little bit because they were doing a hard count. And yeah, but Kev, what do you think?
I mean, I got to give it to Frankie Lulu. Man, that was some quality entertainment. Like, I mean, kudos to him for just being like, you know what, I'm going to try to time this as much as possible. And yeah, it hurts at a hard count. And he thought he had it. He was already in the air. The ball's still just on the ground. Not even like Jurgens hasn't moved. But no, it's a very difficult play to stop. But I think there's a reason other teams don't do it, though. Like, I mean, look at the Chiefs. They stopped the Bills. The Bills, I think, were the second best team at doing it, and maybe the Ravens being the third or something. But yeah, at that point when it's inches, like, it's different when it's like 4th and 2, and the Eagles try to do the tush push there, or 4th and like 1.5, basically. And you're just like, okay, they might not get it. And they sometimes don't get it. But you really have to anticipate. But, I mean, I will say, dude, don't tell the Chiefs that the refs can award points, because you've seen that all over social media probably, of like, oh, the Chiefs going like, this is good, interesting for the Super Bowl. Refs can award points.
Right.
But I will say, it was just hilarious. Like, the Eagles all standing still, and then you just see Frankie Luvu just flying through the air.
Well, he timed it on one of those attempts where he actually got to Hurts.
Yep, he did, and they stopped it.
And then it was like the next 2 attempts, he launched over and it was an offsides, but Hurts didn't see him coming, so he kind of like crashed into him. And then the third time, Hurts saw it happen and backed up and just let him hit the ground.
So funny, yeah, because the second time he was just like, oh, here we go, and just, and him and Barkley just take a casual step back.
Yeah.
And then I will say the one thing I know it got Commanders fans upset, and I know he's, again, as I said, my favorite player was the A.J. Brown, Marshawn Lattimore, because that was the same time when that stuff was happening.
Yeah.
Basically, A.J. Brown goated Marshawn Lattimore. Like, I think we can all agree on that, right?
I think so. Yeah,
My way of looking at it is let him fight.
I mean,
treat this shit like hockey, man. Take your helmet.
Oh, dude, 100%, bro.
Fucking go. Let it happen, man. For your grown ass men, let it happen. If you want to sit down and fight, go for it.
And
keep it with that reason, right? 30 seconds, ain't nobody knocked out on the ground by then. All right, cool, we'll move on.
Yeah.
Treat it like hockey.
I agree with you. I think that's that's a good point. They still let grown men fight in hockey, but then like, have you ever listened to like the hockey players when they're done with fighting? They're like, "Hey man, good scuff" or whatever. They're like, they're like fist bumping afterwards. They're like, "All right, cool, we're done." I mean,
like that's it. Fight you and you're done. You're over with.
You know that shit's gonna last years if that happens in football. Like those two guys are never gonna want to talk each other. They're not gonna get Christmas presents no matter what.
Oh yeah.
You mean like Mike Evans and Marshawn Lattimore?
Yeah.
Steve Smith and almost anybody. Like.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh my gosh.
But
I mean, I think I honestly agree. In hockey, I think you fight, and then you're just like, oh, the anger's kind of gone, and now you kind of like, you know, when you have that, you just need to yell, and then you're just like, oh, okay. You kind of do feel better because you just let it out, and then I think I see the same thing where they're just like, oh yeah, good, not scrum. I was thinking rugby, but like, yeah, good scuffle, good fight, but yeah.
I'm screaming as a Panther fan. I absolutely get that, and then you're fine. I get it. So, but I think before you said that you had a a little fact for me as a Panther fan that got broken over the weekend.
Did you know who had before the Eagles scored 55 points in the NFC? Do you know who had? I think no, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, the record for the most points scored in an NFC Championship game.
Points. Oh, well, I'm assuming it's probably the Panthers then at that point.
Yeah, they scored 48. I think it was 48 against the Cardinals.
I'd say yeah, a few years back.
Yeah, they demolished the Cardinals, and yeah, they had the record until the 50 burger that the Eagles dropped off. I was just like,
if they didn't run the score up, we wouldn't be having this record talk right now.
Yeah.
Hey, see, so yeah, I will say, Cam Newton, Cam Newton was something else. I will say, I like Cam Newton so much when he was with the Panthers that I got this jersey. I think in baseball one time I did the Cam Newton, the Superman thing. I mean, he was the 5 in 2015.
Yeah, no, he was. There's a reason why he won the MVP that season.
Yeah.
I wish we could have got the Super Bowl win out of that, but
dive for the ball.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Okay, you're not going to talk shit to me, there, Browns fan. When was the last time they've seen the playoffs? I'll wait. Exactly.
I miss Joe Flacco.
Joe Flacco.
I think we're at the hour mark, at least a little bit over. So I would say that us making fun of Zach was a good way to end this.
It's just it's a staple now. It's just
at this point, between your shitty bets of the week and then me just making fun of you, and
I'm at a low point now. I don't have bets to give out to people to lose, and I'm just getting beat down for being a Browns fan.
Six pick parlay next week then.
We could do that
for the Super Bowl.
I come up with a 6 pick. I'd probably do a 10 pick, honestly.
Yeah, just something ridiculous.
Josh Allen 4+ rushing touchdowns next week, Super Bowl week.
Pick the under for national anthem. That usually loses, doesn't it?
Yeah. You said Josh Allen 4 touchdowns?
I did. I said Josh Allen. Yep, Josh Allen.
Okay, I was making sure you said that. Okay, I was making sure I heard that correctly.
Cancun Bowl.
So playing the Cancun game, then. Kev, as usual, I say as usual, like you've been on this like 37 times with us. It was fun and a pleasure to have you on here. We do appreciate you taking the time out of your day. I know you probably just got home relatively recently to come here and talk football with us. And yeah,
I want to say thank you guys so much. This has been awesome both times. Been on it, and it's been great. You guys are awesome, and thanks for having me on. I know I can be an annoying Philadelphia fan, but and always talk Eagles, but no, I appreciate just even going down into the specifics of other teams. It's awesome. You guys know your shit, so
appreciate it. I mean, shit, you're less annoying than Zach, so you got that going for you.
I'll just sit here and ask questions, and that way I don't have to expose how little I don't know, I should say.
Yeah, if people listening want proof of that, go back and listen like 2 episodes ago when he has no idea what he's talking about.
Steve Spagnuolo, I'm telling you, I think Zach gave him the recipe. I'm telling you.
I think, watch. I'm gonna get a call and be like, "Hey, the Chiefs want to hire you." I'm gonna be like, "Only if I get a Travis Kelce signed or Taylor Swift signed Kelce jersey. That's all I want. That's all I want. I don't want pay. That's all I want."
It's not nothing. But as you know, Zach, it's been fun.
Yeah.
Doing our normal thing every week. We will be back next week. I'll let you do your outro since you did the intro.
Yeah, we'll be all right, everybody. We'll be live again next week. We'll talk some Pro Bowl stuff. I mean, little talks here and there. Just about the Pro Bowl games that are happening starting Friday and Saturday, if I'm not mistaken, right, Sully? Friday and Saturday?
I think that's right. Yeah, I think it's like a 2-day event, yeah.
And then we will get real heavy into the Super Bowl matchups again just before Super Bowl on February 9th, Super Bowl Sunday. And then going into the postseason, we'll, talk a lot of draft stuff. And coaching stuff now that the coaches are getting settled out, and probably bring Kev back pending an Eagles win for the Super Bowl. We're rooting for you. So
we're bringing them back, don't you worry.
So as always, everybody, thank you for sticking around. Kai, thanks for being in the audience and having some questions for us throughout, and hopefully we got those answered for you. And for everybody listening, feel free to like, subscribe, comment, leave us a like and a review on Spotify, and hit us with a question or a prediction of who you think's going to win the Super Bowl, and it's not going to be the Commanders or the Bills. So
So
It's gonna be Saquon Barkley, just Barkley.
yeah, it's just going to be Saquon Barkley.
100%.
So. All right, guys, it's been a pleasure, and Kev, as always, thanks for coming back, and hope we'll definitely be seeing you again. I'm sure in the next month or so we'll definitely have you back on to dissect the last Eagles game of the 2024-2025 season and talk about that. And Sully, again, pleasure having you and talking football with you for another week. So
yes, sir. Yeah. See you next week.
see you guys next week.
My guys.
Bye bye.
Bye.